I'm Jacob from the Sustainably Yours Homestead, and I'm about to try and make some pickled green tomatoes. You may recall from an earlier video, I pulled up all of my tomato vines at the end of the spring, right at the beginning of fall. This was just a couple of weeks ago, and there were still lots of little baby green tomatoes on there, and I mentioned that I was going to try and do something with those. Here we are. It's been something like a week now, and we're finally going to get around to using these green tomatoes. They've sat for a little while, like I said, so a few of them have developed some little brown spots, but they'll be alright. We'll still be able to use these things. And the plan is to pickle them. For the really small ones, I'm going to pickle them whole, and the ones that are a little bit larger, I kind of did a little test. I put them in the jars, mostly to see how many jars I was going to need. But when I was dumping them back out, I noticed that some of the larger tomatoes kind of got stuck. So for those, I'll probably slice those into halves or maybe quarters and pickle them that way. And I really haven't tried pickling very many things. As a matter of fact, I think the only pickling I've ever done was some jalapeno peppers that we tried to pickle last year, and they turned out alright. So we're going to try it with the tomatoes here. I looked up several recipes, and there are a lot of ways that you can do it. Some ingredients that I always saw in common, of course, vinegar, some sugar. We're going to use pure cane sugar, some kosher salt, and most recipes called for peppercorns. I did see a couple of recipes that used coriander, some bay leaves, and then I was at Walmart. I wanted some mustard seed, and the grocery store was sold out, and the little town we live in just has a regular old school Walmart, and some of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. It's a Walmart that does not have any kind of, well, very few grocery items, so they didn't carry mustard seed. Except on the canning aisle, I was able to find this mixed pickling spice, and it does contain mustard seed along with the peppercorns, some dill, and some other things I'm not going to try to pronounce. Cassia? Is that correct? Cardamom? Cassium? I said I wasn't going to try to pronounce it. But since there were so many different ways that you could do it, I figured I would try a few different methods. So we'll be using some different sets of spices in different jars. I also have some peppers. These are some New Mex Sun Glow peppers. I'll probably throw those in one of the jars. They are not hot at all, not spicy. And then we have our paprika peppers. These have a little bit of a bite to them, so those may make some spicy pickled tomatoes. But before we get started, I guess I need to sterilize my jars, and I think I'm going to try something. I'm going to need the water to cover all of my jars, but I don't want it to overflow when I start to set my jars in. So I'm going to run water with the jars already there, and then I will remove the jars, and that should be the right amount of water. And now we can put these over the heat and bring it to a boil. And meanwhile, I'm going to be cleaning up these tomatoes. Some of them have some spots that I'm going to probably end up cutting out, but that is okay. This one is probably a little big for what I want to do, so let's slice it down the middle. I may even quarter that one. And I guess the ones that I slice up, I should probably put in a bowl. Some of the smaller ones that I'm going to pickle whole, I'll just leave those in the sink. And see, I had a lot of this on my tomatoes this year. And I've never really had this problem. I don't know if there was something eating into the tomato early on and then it healed over, or I don't know what this is, but it was very aggravating. I'll cut that out of there. Alrighty, I've got my tomatoes all ready. I've got my paprika peppers sliced up, and I almost forgot one of the most important parts. The garlic. We're going to be using some of the elephant garlic that we harvested earlier in the year. You can check that out right about here. Alright, our jars have finished sterilizing, so we're getting ready to pack those. But while we're doing that, I'm going to prepare the brine. And while that comes to a boil, let's go ahead and fill our jars. For the first one, we're going to start with some tomatoes. These are some of the sliced ones. We'll throw in some garlic and some more tomatoes. We'll put in some paprika peppers on this one. These may turn out a little bit spicy. Fill it the rest of the way with our tomatoes and peppers, and we'll add in a nice sprig of dill. And that one is done. On to the next. For our second jar, of course, we got to have the tomatoes and garlic, but I'm going to try some coriander. And I don't know how this turns out. I don't even know how much I'm supposed to use, but we're going to try it for this jar. We'll also toss in some bay leaves, and hopefully that will be a good flavor combination. And for this one, we'll try our sunglow peppers. So who knows how jar number 2 is going to turn out. For the third jar, we've got our tomatoes and garlic. For this one, I'm going to try the store-bought pickle spices. And again, I don't know how much I'm supposed to use, so I'm just kind of guessing here, and then second guessing. We'll add in some more tomatoes and our paprika peppers and call that good for jar number 3. Jar number 4, we're going to start using our whole tomatoes. But I want the brine to really be able to penetrate into the tomato, so we're going to poke a few holes into the top of these things. I'm just going to use a fork. I read you can use a toothpick, but this will work. We'll drop that into the jar. We're going to use some dill for this jar, some garlic, and again our paprika peppers. And for the last jar, we're going to finish off our whole tomatoes, and I'm going to use the store-bought pickling spice again. Still don't know how much I should use. We'll toss in some garlic and some of those paprika peppers. Man, I hope those peppers don't make these pickles too hot. If so, I won't be able to eat any of them, because I'm a baby. Alright, our brine has come to a boil, so let's get ready and pour the brine into each of our jars. I'm going to try and get a few of these peppercorns in the jar with them. I'll put the lid on this thing and set it to the side, and then we'll go ahead and fill the rest of our jars with brine. Whoa, I almost forgot to add in the pickle crisp. Pickle crisp is food grade calcium chloride, and it's supposed to keep the pickles from getting mushy and soft. And I don't know if we really need it for pickled tomatoes or not, but I'm going to go ahead and add it in there. And now we're going to add our jars back into the water bath. Make sure that the lids are covered with water, and we're about to overflow. I remember earlier when I filled the jars with water in an attempt to measure how much water I needed. Well, after that, I went ahead and poured the water back out into the pot. And now I'm putting them back in the water with lids on so that water can't go back into the jar. So essentially, I've added a lot of volume into the pot, and I'm going to have to remove some of this water. Yeah, there we go. That'll do it. And after a good 15 minutes of their boiling water bath, we are ready to remove these, set them out, and allow them to start cooling. It's the next morning. We went 5 for 5 on the lids popping. Our water has pretty high mineral content, and so as the water evaporates, it leaves that residue behind. But that's okay. We'll just take a cloth and we'll clean all those up. Make sure we tighten the lids down. It looks like some of these jars I probably could have put a few more tomatoes in or something. I might could have gotten away with just doing 4 jars instead of 5 even. And now I guess we have to wait a few weeks to let them get good, but then I'll break the camera back out and we'll open these things up. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If so, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Leave us a thoughtful comment, and if you're interested in following along as we continue to try and turn our home into a homestead, then be sure to ring the notification bell so you'll know when to be back for more daily, sustainable living.